All right. So, just to recap, part one happened about 15 minutes ago, and then we had company over
So
unexpectedly that we weren't expecting. So we had to cancel. Now we're back. Yeah.
unexpectedly, that was.
Shut up. Just shut up. Leave me alone. All right. Don't judge me on my English.
I speak American.
I speak American. I'm from America. I speak...
Budweiser, America.
Shut up. You damn hippie. Kidding for those folks that have zero sense of humor, by the way.
Oh, in this community, well, there are those.
Yeah.
I've come across them.
Yep, I have too.
Yeah,
I have family members that are actually part of that community.
I'm talking about the YouTube pipe community.
Oh, I don't know the YouTube pipe community per se, but
What? That's
I'm
weird.
talking about the liberal bias media.
Oh shit!
I have a couple of family members that are like that.
The liberal bias media. Oh my god! You know they need to. This could be our next tangent. Should media be privatized? I think
Media
not.
already is privatized.
It is, and it happened in the '80s, and I'm saying it shouldn't have happened at all. Because you had the news. that
Okay.
was-
I will say this.
you know,
I'm going to
try-
give you my answer, but I want you to give me
C'est
time.
la vie.
Yeah, I tried that already. That's what I'm smoking now.
I know, and I like the smell of it, and I didn't like it yesterday, so I'm thinking maybe it was the pipe I was
You
smoking.
change your mind more than a woman.
Changing my
Again, a joke, people. It's a joke. Funny. Ha ha. See?
I'm
Anyway.
changing my pipe just like a woman. And this one doesn't fit anymore. I need a new one.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, that was offensive. I take offense to that. Hashtag me too.
Hashtag men in divorce situations.
So you show me a beautiful woman, I will show you a man that's sick of her shit. Anyways,
We're starting this one all right. Oh my god.
let's just be offensive. Anyways, no, all right. So, shit, what were we talking about again? What'd you say? Oh, media being
Media,
privatized.
media,
All right,
yeah.
I will give you my answer, but I want you to give me a minute to explain my answer.
Okay.
My answer is yes, it should be. Because media is already privatized. And let them shoot themselves in the foot. You have CNN, Fox, all of these major media outlets that are
Bias.
completely biased. You have CNN, which is hard leaning left, and you have Fox, which is hard leaning right, and you have two different outcomes off of the same event. No, that's crap, and I totally agree with you. However, the American people, the people, are choosing that, are choosing not choosing that. I'm sorry, choosing different media outlets. That's why people are going to YouTube now to watch what you have. You have new outlets for truth. Like people
what we're
like people
doing.
like what we're doing. We're not really giving news. We're giving our opinions, which I will never say that take what we say and run with it. I'm giving you my opinion of what I see, what I hear, and some of the things that I read. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm trying to force somebody to believe a certain way or anything like that, which is what
Well,
mainstream media is doing today. However, it's opening up the doors for people like Jordan Peterson, which are the true intellectuals that are out there. People like Joe Rogan
mhm.
that that open up these doors. That I will never compete with Jordan Peterson, ever.
Yeah, right.
He some of the things that he says is mind-boggling intelligence that is it amazes me. I love listening to him because what he has to say is truth. It's his opinion, but it's an educated opinion that the vast majority of people today don't really get. You have intelligent people on Fox News and CNN all the time, but bias, and Jordan Peterson will come right out and say, I don't have a political view. Like, I don't even really know which way he stands on. You know, I mean, there are certain things that he
would say
leans
that he's
left.
a classic liberal.
He's a classic liberal, absolutely. And that's where I think me and you kind of venture into that realm. We have more left and right leaning ideologies than some, but
Depending on the subject.
depending on the subject, and I think that's with him as well. And I hate to put things in his mouth because he's far more of an intelligent individual than I will ever want to be.
Well, and he only eats meat, so he'd probably chomp down if you put anything into his mouth.
Which actually I watched that podcast from Joe Rogan, and I mean, if you look at his daughter's situation, I mean, his daughter's allergic to everything. And the only thing that she's really not allergic to is red meat, and I mean, it's given her a quality of life. I've actually thought about the carnivore diet. If I could afford it, I'd love it.
Yeah.
You know, I can't afford,
It's
$100 a week in buying meat. And then on top of that, spending time to cook it and prepare it. And then, that's more than what I want to go into.
I often consider whether or not it was possible to do like the poor man's carnivore diet, which is like just buying a bunch of freaking hamburger and seeing if it does the same thing. But everyone,
the 70-30 or the 90-10 or the 80-20?
That's a good question, because then you have those people that are like, well, saturated fat's not bad for you and it doesn't up your cholesterol.
Well, and that's also depending on your lifestyle too. Now, if I was out mountain biking every day or mountain climbing every day, or if I was burning, 30,000 calories a day, then yeah, saturated fat's amazing. That's where, like, the people that live in Alaska,
it depends on the Inuit, and it depends on your genetic makeup and what the evolution has.
Well, not so much your genetic makeup. Like the people that move out. Have you ever seen Life Below Zero?
No. I've heard of it, but I don't think about it.
It's an amazing show. But there's one guy. He lives in Kandahar. He lives in he lives out in the middle of nowhere in a tent. Respect the man. He's a little weird, but he's gone a little bushy. But nonetheless, I respect how he lives. He doesn't live. The only power tool he has is his rifle. He lives in one of the harshest environments.
I've never heard of the rifle as called a power tool.
Well, a gun is a tool. I mean, and if you're looking at so yeah, it's maybe not a power tool per se, but it's a tool nonetheless. It's a very sophisticated tool. That's the most That's the most technologically advanced.
Yes. Okay.
And I mean, even in the episodes that I've watched, the episodes I've seen, I've only seen up to season 4, but he talks about how the fat on the animals that he kills is in some cases more important than the meat, just because it's high in calories. You're doing caloric. He walks everywhere. I mean, he walks miles upon miles to find these caribou and to find these moose and to hunt and fish and to do all the work that he has to do to collect firewood and what have you. So if you live in that particular lifestyle, then yes, calories are everything. If you're burning 30,000 calories a day, you need to take in, at least 30,000 calories to maintain.
Yeah.
So the average person resting burns about 3,000 calories a day, which is about average for what, I would have to, I'll throw out there. Is it 12? I thought it was 3.
Because
I thought it was anywhere between 25 to 3,000 calories per day. I could be wrong.
It might be. Yeah.
No.
I could be totally wrong.
I'm just gonna say, if you're gonna burn the average
Neither one of
person-
us are experts, and we don't know what we're talking
No,
about.
no, I am by far a biology expert. But let's just say we burn 3,000 calories. The average person resting burns 3,000 calories a day. Okay. So I burn 3,000 calories a day. A Little Caesars pizza is 2,500 calories. I'm a bigger guy, so that's one meal, maybe two. So that third meal plus beer plus a pop that I drink, whatever, is just increasing. So that's why I think we're having such a weight epidemic, because nobody, not everybody works. Again, I hate generalizing everything, but you have some guys that bust their ass. I know a lot of guys that work 16 hours a day, and they're doing hard manual labor. So yeah, they can get by eating a 10,000 calorie a day diet and be just fine.
Yeah.
And actually lose weight in that process. Me,
10,000 calories.
When I was weightlifting, I was eating anywhere between 8 to 10,000 calories a day.
Shit. What the?
But I was bulking. That's why. If I ate 6,000 calories a day, I'd balloon out to 500 pounds in a matter of months.
Yeah.
I don't do anything anymore. I don't work out as much as I don't work out at all anymore. But when I was in my early 20s, yeah, I worked out all the time. You spend an hour and a half at the gym, and then you eat the healthy foods that you're supposed to, and you actually pay attention to what you're putting into your body. Yes, then at that point you can eat more if it's high in protein or high in higher in fats, healthy fats, and then you're actually burning them off. You're actually using that in a productive way.
So you weren't eating a lot of carbs.
No, I ate next to no carbs.
Ugh.
And which is incredibly hard in today's society, because
Yeah.
everything has carbs and salt.
Can I get a Big Mac with no bun? Is that even an option when you go to McDonald's?
Probably not, but it's your choice.
Just
You can
throw it
pull
out
the
in the
bun off.
parking lot and the ants won't eat it.
Yeah, that's. I eat at McDonald's every once in a while, but every time I do, it gives me the shits, and I know TMI, but.
Did you hear about the guy? It was a professor, and he put on eBay. He didn't. I think it was like the oldest known.
Yeah, it was like
Big-
20 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He put it on
He
the
found
shelf.
it like underneath his car or something like that, didn't he?
I don't think so. I think it was a bet between
Or underneath
him-
his car seat.
No, maybe.
I thought I read. I could be wrong. I thought I
So-
read something where some guy found a McDonald's hamburger bun that was like 6 years old, and then he put it on a shelf
Yes.
for like another like 15 years
Yep.
or something like
And the
that.
ants wouldn't eat it.
Nothing
like-
touched it. Well, and that's the same thing. Like margarine. How many people know, or
It's
how many people
garbage.
use
Uh,
margarine? You do realize that margarine is one molecule away from plastic.
but
no
that's
animal.
chemistry.
No bug, nothing will touch it. My grandma used to use it all the time, and I thought it was good for it because everything that my grandma made
Well,
was
it's not
delicious.
butter. It's not going to cause you arteries.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't believe it's not butter. Well, yeah, even the ants can't believe it's not butter.
You're not saying it right. I can't believe it's not butter. Square.
Keep drinking your wine, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I actually started looking into it and realizing, the best food for you is the food that rots the fastest. Is kind of how I've looked into it. If you're gonna eat, like look at organic stuff, like 100% organic, grown naturally, the stuff lasts days. Like organic bread will start to mold within a week. But you buy some loaf of bread off the shelf that's not organic, that's not.
Oh, like Wonder Bread?
Yeah, Wonder Bread. That stuff will last months in your shelf before it starts to turn green. And then when it does start to turn green, you can just cut it off and eat it, and the rest of it's fine. Whereas if you do that with organic bread will start to rot or mold, not rot, but mold.
Especially the sprouted bread.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that? Yeah.
Yep. So organic stuff, or not necessarily just organic per se, but like if you have a garden you'll notice that you pick tomatoes, those will go bad in
Couple
just a couple
days,
of days.
yeah.
But why at the store, when you go to the supermarket and you buy tomatoes, those will sometimes last weeks, depending on how you store them.
Because they pick them when they're still green, for one. Like ketchup, for example. And this came out when John Kerry was running for president, right? Because he was married to one of the Heinz
Was he?
ketchup. Yeah. So what came out was, and I think it was just like one of those fun facts.
Hey,
but,
we have a viewer. Hey, how you
oh,
doing?
hello. So we what came out at that time was ketchup should really be green because all the tomatoes they use for ketchup, they're picked in their green state, and then they add red food coloring to make it red, so that it looks like it's from fresh red tomatoes.
And that's why I don't eat ketchup. I really don't. I hate ketchup.
And a shit ton of salt. I mean, they have to add that for the shelf life.
But see, that's where it's at too. You know, like what happened to direct to consumer? And the most direct to consumer, and that's why I'm a hunter. That's why I'm a fisherman. Is because there is nothing better. Like I have squirrel stew. Yes, squirrel stew. The tiny little rodents that run around your city. I eat those, not in the city because those are gross. But well, they live off of human garbage. But if you go out into any state land that you live by, no matter where you're from, there's state land within 20-mile distance from you, or at least 50. I'll give you 50 that you can feasibly hunt. And I made this squirrel stew. It smells delicious. I haven't tried any yet. I've eaten some in the past. I've never quite like this before, but that is about as direct to consumer as you can get. I want to start my own garden next year. That's why I hunt and fish, hands down. Period. Not for the food quality and for the mental aspect of just getting away from your everyday problems. Because for me personally, when you're in the woods, it's a spiritual event. It's you forget about all. You forget that you're at the top of the food chain when you're sitting next to an oak tree that's 100, 200 years old, whatever, and you see these animals. They're not worried about your phone bill or its phone bill. It's not worried about its mortgage payment. It's not worried about these things. It's worried about staying alive and eating. That's it. And reproduction. Wow. That's it.
Squirrels want to get laid too, man.
Absolutely. Every animal does. And that is its truest existence. And I think we've domesticated ourselves as far as the human population. We've domesticated ourselves to the point where we don't have to worry about those things anymore. We worry about things that don't really matter.
We do worry about getting laid. That's why we have Tinder.
Yeah, but
which has made it insanely easier, honestly.
Yeah, but at what aspect though? You're starting to create an entire population of people that have a higher intelligence than most other animals and any other animal that we could prove anyway. And it's in my understanding is it's actually ruining the human race. Is the fact that all we have to do is just hop on our phone and we can pick and choose who we want to sleep with instead of discovering new things about a particular individual before we sleep with them. In some cases it works, in some cases not so much. I don't know. I think I think those dating apps and stuff like that are a lot of a cause to the not necessarily the suffrage, but the problems within our society.
Isn't it solving a lot of problems though? Like, for example, you have these incel groups, right? These guys that are celibate, but they blame women for it.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys.
Which is a very marginalized group of people, but yes.
It is, but you had these guys, and this came up. There was that guy that went around shooting people, and I think it was in L.A. or whatever.
Yeah,
And
that
he was-
happened here too.
That
The
guy,
Uber driver.
the Uber driver was not frustrated from not getting laid. The kid in
Ever seen
L.A.
him?
Okay, so he probably hasn't seen his penis in like 20 years. Who knows? But the point is, you have these groups of people that are sexually frustrated because they can't meet anybody. When they do meet somebody, it's like they're not interested. Which the message really should be, if you go on a date with 20 different women and all of them turn you down at some point, it's not the women who are the problem. It's obviously you, but nobody wants to look at that because you grow up in this culture of the self-esteem movement.
Yeah. Hi.
Sorry. So you have this group of people who are constantly told that, like, no matter what anybody says, you should be proud of who you are, blah blah blah. When there's obviously problems with you, there's problems with the people who are telling you this bullshit. And then to top it off, you don't feel like you should have to change anything, and that other people should mold around who you are instead of trying to improve yourself.
But we've also, like, we've talked about this in the past, where simple biology comes into play. You know, men are visual. Men are visual beings. Now, why should it be that, say, a woman that is 400 pounds, that doesn't do anything for herself, that doesn't cook or doesn't clean, whatever, should be able to demand whatever she wants, whereas a man that is slightly out of shape is ridiculed.
And that's coming up now too, because you just had, what magazine was it? Was it like Cosmo? Yeah, where it's like you have this person who is obviously not healthy, who's trying to promote this whole like weird body image thing of like, this is the new normal. And it's like, really?
What is it though? I mean, and we've had stouts of in our society all the way back to the Middle Ages, where if that was a sign of like wealth.
Yeah, it was a sign of wealth.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, she's doing pretty well for herself.
exactly. So how are you doing, Sarah?
Good. I didn't know. I just bought a whole bunch of stuff for Leah and I to make fall wreaths at Hobby Lobby.
Oh,
Like a whole spread of stuff.
okay.
And I didn't know. I thought you guys were coming over later, so I was like,
Well,
the door over there, the other side of the door's open too.
she wasn't feeling all that well
Earlier, yeah.
this morning, so then she slept in way later than I can handle. So
Yeah, I told her I was going to come pick her up later if she wanted me to, but
yeah, I
was like,
haven't.
I thought you guys were coming over later, so I was like, what can we do tonight? And I'm like, crafting. So I just spent like $40 on all these fall craft stuff, wreath things, and then tons of stuff so we can just like make fall. I was like, what can we do? It's like make fall.
Oh.
Somebody got a new book.
Mom got you a new book.
Yeah, and it's a word book, but it's got the foam pages so she can open them a lot better. So those word books always
Nice.
stick together for her.
Nice.
She said, I got a new book.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from her in a while, so I don't know what's going on.
Hi.
She is still unsure about me.
Looks like, no, not.
She's been whining the whole time, but apparently feeling better because she's running
Her
around.
face looks better.
She
lot
still
better.
looks like she got stung in the face by a bee.
Yeah, but
though.
it looked worse this morning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. By tomorrow, she'll be
The
fine.
vet said she looks like a bull terrier. I took her back today to get a pain injection because she couldn't even open her mouth with her pills.
Oh, nice.
So
Oh, puppy. Yeah. You know, and that just, getting back to our original discussion about biology. You have to look at the biology of the fact. I mean, and look at even modern day. Look at the different magazines. I mean, look at a men's magazine versus a woman's magazine. The men's magazine just has not at all. You have a men's magazine that's full of naked women. You have a woman's magazine that
half naked woman.
it still has half naked women in it, but it's more of a how to be how to please your man and how to do this and how to do that.
Written by a woman who has no idea what men really want.
Exactly, and it all boils down simply to communication because every person is different. Some men like bigger women. Some men don't like bigger women. Some
That was always
women like the dad bod. Some women don't. However, if you ever look at Magic Mike,
okay.
Now imagine if there was a bunch of men that look like me and you. Would that sell as much as Magic Mike?
It might actually.
It might, but it might
wasn't
not.
that the point of the Full Monty? Did you ever see that movie? Bunch of normal guys were like, "Hey, we're unemployed. It's England. Margaret Thatcher's in charge, and we can't get jobs. Oh, but women will pay all this money to see guys like dance around and rip their clothes off." So you have these average Joes learning how to become male strippers in their spare time. They actually sew all their pants where they have the Velcro on the side so they can like grab the crotch and like, rip them off on stage. And the place ends up being packed. Now, of course, it's a fictional movie, but I think overall, it's like what they did was they had the black guy, they had the chubby white guy, they had the skinny white guy. I mean, they had like everybody. So really, they're satisfying a very broad audience.
Yeah. But why is it that 5 years ago, the only women that you saw walk down Victoria's Secret, the Victoria's Secret supermodels, needed to eat a cookie. They were skeletons. They looked very unhealthy. Now
and the clothes. The other thing to keep in mind is the clothes that they were wearing were designed to make them look bigger in certain areas as opposed to naturally being bigger.
But who cares? Because it's up to your particular body image. And I think the problem is you have so many in today's society, everything revolves around looks. If you're a man and you don't look this particular way, then you're not going to attract this particular woman. If you look this way, you're not going to attract this particular woman. Whatever, blah blah blah. And then you have these women that in these magazines, you have, or not even just magazines, but in magazines, in television, in TV shows, whatever, that just they're the quote unquote, they're the perfect female for society standards. Which who sets society standards? And that's where, well, hold on, because that's where I have a big problem, because with this whole new feminist movement that's out there today,
which is garbage.
I think her name is Regina Hall Summers. She has a video or she has a YouTube channel called Classical Feminists. She was a feminist back in the 60s and the 70s, which, you know what? Back then, absolutely, feminism was a thing, and I agree with it. Today, what are you protesting?
I don't need a man at all.
But yes, you do, as much as men need women. I can tell you right here, right now, yeah, sure, I don't need my fiance. I don't need her at all. She doesn't need me. to go through life expecting that you can do it alone and without somebody else to help you or to push you in particular ways, that's a miserable life.
So you do need somebody in your life.
To survive, no, but to thrive, absolutely.
But what is the overall goal of survival if it's not procreating the species, or in particular, to
It's
be
not-
selfish, your genes in question?
It's not necessarily
It-
about
it
procreation.
It takes two.
It definitely to procreate. Yes, it definitely takes two.
Then what
Well,
is the
what about-
ultimate goal of survival? Just to live to be 100,
But
and then
going back to your particular stance of Tinder, okay, there's your procreation. You know, okay, fine, I can be single and I can sleep with 5 women a week if I wanted to, or a dozen women a week, whatever, and I can have hundreds of kids. Sure, there's my procreation. If that's all that I needed, then sure, I just stay single and I just stick to plenty of
And
fish
some
and
people
Tinder.
would argue that like the guys who do that are the alpha males who 100 years from now are going to have more offspring, and therefore their genes, whether you want to add any type of value to that or not,
That's not the man's fault. That's not the man's fault because men are different than women.
they are, and most men do
And
not
men-
procreate.
And men will a single man, a respectable man in general will procreate with 1-2 women. You know, and he will do what he can to keep that woman to himself in a respectful manner. Obviously, I mean, yeah, sure, I could lock my fiance in our basement and keep her to myself as much as I want, but I'm never going to cheat on her. I'm never going to sleep with other women while having her at home.
Right.
That's my definition of a respectable individual as far as family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because of this whole #MeToo movement, is it's actually opened the doors for men to be able to, hey, I can sleep with this woman without any remorse because this woman believes that she can live without any man. Whereas,
I don't think that is what the Me Too movement is about.
but it's about independence from men. That the women are-
I think you're confusing modern feminism with what the Me Too movement is saying. Because
They're the same thing.
no, because they're linked, but they're not. So like Me Too is about sexual harassment, sexual assault, rape.
Yes.
Feminism
You're
is
right.
all about we don't need men.
You're
we're
right.
equal. We
You're
should
right.
make as much
Yep.
as them.
You're right. Okay, and I stand corrected. I stand corrected. You're right. Modern feminism is what I'm talking
take
about.
all the stuff you said before and switch it with modern feminism.
Yes.
And somebody out there is probably going to like snip.
Oh, totally
This
crucify me and make me into the biggest asshole on the planet. But to be honest with you, I'm not famous, nor will I ever be famous, so I don't care. Snip it however you want and make me into some rapey racist. I
Thank
don't care.
God this whole thing is actually going to be out there as opposed to like,
You know
that
what?
garbage.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I
We don't know
misspoke.
who this guy is, but we're going to crucify him.
Yep, I don't care. Yeah, do whatever you got to do. Then I might just roll with it. I might make more money. Kidding, guys. Kidding. You're right. Modern feminism is that way, and modern feminism is teaching young women that they don't need men in their lives, which they don't, and they should never need anybody, but they should want somebody. And that's the other thing too. Is it like I have no problems with gay people or anything like that. If you need somebody in your life that is willing to support you, that is willing to look after you, that gives you purpose. Whether that's a man,
that's
a woman.
That sounds like codependency.
Well, however you look at it, like codependency could also be looked at as marriage too.
I would like to think of it as like a partnership, not
Well,
like.
but that's what I'm saying though, is because when you're in a partnership, whether it's and you can look at this across the board as far as business relationship, friendship, or an intimate relationship. Everybody has highs and lows. Now, when you're at your high, it's your responsibility to help out your partner, in whatever they want to succeed in. The other way is, friendships, the same thing. I mean, everybody has their highs and their lows. If you're on your high and your partner is at their low, then help them. If you have a relationship, an intimate relationship, or you have a friendship, and say one of your friends is, something happened in their life that, kind of put them in the dumps, then there's nothing wrong with trying to help them. In an intimate relationship, I mean, everybody has their highs and their lows and their differences of whatever, I mean, sometimes you just kind of get in that dull moment where you're just like, man, I hate where my life is going right now. Well, it's your responsibility as their partner to kind of lift them up, to help them. And it doesn't matter if you're
I'm going to agree with you on that, but I'm also going to point out, so like, there's certain expectations that society has put on different people, right? And one of them is that the man, no matter what, is supposed to provide for the family. I have never heard a housewife, and this comes from Chris Rock, so yes, I am stealing this, say, ever since my husband lost his job, it has been amazing. We've bonded, we've had all this extra time. We're closer now than we've ever been. No. That is when, like, divorce gets threatened and
but see, and that's okay.
A bad situation becomes even worse.
And there's in my opinion, there's a multitude of different things that contribute to that. Okay. I'm going to use you as an example because you're the breadwinner right now. Serious?
We're about equal.
Okay. So
And,
then I'm not going to use you as an example. I'm going to use a hypothetical relationship, my cousin, for instance.
Continue with this.
Okay. Go. Have fun. Ugh. So no. Okay. So my cousin, he works his butt off. He's got 3 kids. His wife is a stay-at-home. She actually just got a job. Great, good for her. Now, in the example that he gave, as far as like, no stay-at-home mom has ever been happy if her husband loses their job, which true, because then at that point, what are they going to do? It's the threat of uncertainty. Going back to my cousin, for instance, if he were to lose his job, then they would have no money coming in. They got 3 mouths to feed between him and his wife, and then they have their own. They have 5 mouths to feed as in the whole household. That's scary and that's terrifying. Now, I think it's up to the relationship, and it's up to the particular person that you decided to spend the rest of your life with. And if he loses his job, that's outside of his control. Let's say he gets fired for whatever reason. Okay, now that's outside of his control. Now, if he busted his ass, he did what he was supposed to do to find another job, and she leaves him anyways, that's on her, in my opinion. That's on her. Because things happen outside of your control all the time. Now, if he just decided to quit his job because he didn't feel like working anymore, well, no, that's on him at that point. That's not you when you sign up for that contract. When you sign up for, yes, I will work 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week. to provide for this family, then you sign a contract saying that you will provide for this family. That way, the entire household is relying on your paycheck. So if you lose your job outside of your control, then you need to bust your ass and find another job, get your old job back, whatever you got to do to provide for this family. Now, if you quit your job because you're like, you know what, I just don't like my boss, or the hours suck, or whatever excuse you can come up with, well, then you just kind of negated that contract. And yeah, I mean, if I was a stay-at-home dad and I had 3 kids at home, or 2 kids at home, or 1 kid at home, and me and my fiance, or me and my future wife talked about it and came up with, you know what, you stay at home, I'm gonna go to work. All right, cool. I'll quit my job, stay home, take care of the kids. Now she comes home and she just tells me, yeah, you know what, I just didn't have a good day today, so I quit. I'm gonna be pissed. That's not cool. We got bills to pay. So that's where I kind of, that's where running out of things to talk about here while he's runs to the restroom. Yeah. So, anyways, I see that we have a viewer, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I hope you're getting something out of it, anyways. If you want us to discuss something, or if you want us to hear anything that you have to say, please make a comment. Yeah. How's everybody's day? I forgot what I was smoking. Oh, I'm smoking the same thing that's smoking here. French vanilla. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Yeah, right there. Pretty good. You guys are pipe smokers out there. I definitely suggest it. It's not expensive. I used to be a cigarette smoker. Still smoke cigarettes on occasion, but I pretty much switched completely over to pipes. Ah, there he is. I ran out of things to talk about.
Oh, how'd that happen? You?
Shut up. I didn't want to get too far out in the weeds.
What weed? Where are we going? Oh God, what is your? Okay, your cousin.
Yeah, so I was just talking about my cousin, and how, like, when you have a man and a woman, or a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, whatever, and there's kids involved, or there's bills involved, there's things that need to be provided for. You kind of sign a vocalized contract at that point of saying, look, I'll work, you stay at home and raise the kids. Now, if
That's
that person,
really old school.
but it worked, didn't it?
At one time.
Even you can't tell me that even by today's standards, if you have a stay-at-home parent, let's just take kids for instance. If you have a stay-at-home parent, and that parent that goes out and works every day, they kind of signed that contract of, I will go to work, I will bring home the paycheck. Now, if they lose their job outside of their control, they get fired for whatever reason, or something happens that's not of their doing, then their partner leaves them, that's not necessarily. I disagree with that, because it's outside of their control. They couldn't control that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if their partner came home and said, "You know what? I just didn't like my boss today, so I quit."
I've
That's-
actually heard that before.
I have too. That's where I have a problem. Okay, you just negated that contract because you had a bad day. Like, what about the future bad days we're about to have? You know, like you need to fix it. You know, you have a lot of women today that have particular standards for what kind of men that they want to get with. But so let's I'm gonna use the scale of I'm gonna use the douchebag scale. You know,
man.
from 1 to 10. So let's say a 5 has standards of 10. Well, it's
Wait, what?
if a woman is a 5 on the douchebag scale.
A woman is a douchebag.
No. You know how the douchebags usually rate women from 1 to 10.
Oh yeah.
So on the douchebag scale, because I've never used the scale outside of examples for douchebags. So a woman that's a 5 only has standards for 10 in the male spectrum. So like a great body, a great job, no kids, no baggage, makes great money,
Nothing for brains.
whatever. That woman is going to have a very hard time finding success in her relationships because she's going to judge every man that she's with on, well, he lacks in the body department or the job department or whatever.
I'm this whole scale thing. So
You've never heard of anybody that rated somebody else? Like if you've never been at the bar and been like, oh wow, she's a 10.
I've heard that. So where I'm confused is the douchebag.
I think if you walk into a bar or if you're sitting at the bar and a woman walks in and you say she's a 5, she's a 6, she's a 10, you're a douchebag.
Okay, I agree with that.
That's where the douchebag scale comes.
So on the douchebag scale, a woman who is a 10 is going to have the harder time.
No.
With
A
men.
woman that is at a 5 that rates men at a 10 and she will only date
This
men
is
that
where
are
I'm
a 10.
confused. This is where you confused me. Because I was set with you on the douchebag part and the woman who's a 10.
Yeah.
And then you kind of reverse it to where a woman who categorizes men
Yes.
as
She is also a douchebag.
okay.
See what I'm saying?
So
I think anybody that rates anybody simply on looks is a douchebag. Men or women, it doesn't matter. You want to be equal, there's equality.
okay.
That's where I get it. Because there are men out there that are great looking, that have great bodies, that have great jobs,
What are you trying to say here?
that are shut up. That have horrible personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And there are men that maybe not have the greatest body, maybe don't have the greatest look, maybe not have the greatest job, but will do anything for their family. If you're going to sit there and you're going to say, as a man or a woman, I'm only going to be with somebody that has a great ass or a great set of boobs, tits. We're men here. I have a problem with that. Why? Because tits get saggy and looks go away.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're with somebody long enough, you don't really look at their looks anymore. You look at their personality.
This actually came up at work the other day, where there's and this was weird. It was a conversation between two women, and both of them are young. And I would say that both of them are fairly attractive in their own way.
Yeah.
But you had two different philosophies on when it came to basically life in general, right? One of them is she's very how would I say it? So one of them is very traditional in a certain way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's in her 20s, doesn't date all that much, but she's basically like waiting for the right guy, right?
She dates who she actually has a connection with.
Mm-hmm. Whereas the other one, who is fairly new to our place of employment, during this conversation realized that the first person isn't out there having her fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, what is wrong with you? You should be out. I wouldn't say-
Gallivanting and
Yeah, like go out, have
Yep.
your fun, find out what you like. I don't
Yeah.
understand. And basically her idea was you should be out having your fun, and that thing that you're waiting for will come along later.
Mhm.
And they were going back and forth.
But
and-
what's later?
exactly? Well, later could be next week with the first girl because she might meet the guy that she's been waiting for, right? Whereas the other girl's like, no, you go out and you have fun and you fuck around and see what you enjoy. So there's two separate philosophies going on there, and they're going back and forth. And then the weird, so this is kind of what I thought was weird in a way, because I didn't think this was going to happen. But the majority of the people who are in the room hearing this conversation were also older,
Mhm.
sided with the first girl, the one who's waiting for Mr. Right, because they were like, oh my God, if I could go back and do it all over again, I wouldn't have messed around with
Mm-hmm.
these guys, these girls, because it was a man and woman ratio who was hearing this conversation. And both sides were like, no, this girl doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. She thinks she knows what she's talking about because she's going out and she's having fun. But, and this is where I'm going to take it. Because the second girl, the one who's saying you should go out and have your fun, she's the one that is typically, maybe this isn't going to happen to her. But the odds are, and the statistics show, eventually she's going to get pregnant. And her looks are going to go away. She's going to be stuck with a kid.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to probably, in one way or another, going to be running around trying to get the child support, trying to meet other men who aren't going to want to mess with that.
Yep.
She's going to have the few guys that are desperate enough to want to mess around with that, with the kid. And then it's just going to end up being a shitty situation for everyone. Whereas the other girl,
No, I don't. I'm sorry. Continue.
so, and I had this running through my mind, okay? Because, like I said, both girls are fairly attractive, right? The one girl who's out basically saying you should be out screwing around. If sex appeal was cash, this girl would be a millionaire, right? Because early 20s
For now.
for now, and that's where I'm going with this.
Mhm.
This girl would be a millionaire. But when she's 30, when she's 40, most likely when she's 40, she's going to be minimum wage.
Mhm.
And she's going to be just like everybody else. Whereas the other girl, the one who's waiting for the right guy, right? That's like Steve Jobs material. Whereas she's waiting, she's patient, she knows what she's looking for, and that's kind of, it's not just when it comes to sex or relationships, but the mentality of I know what I want and that's what I'm going for,
Mhm.
regardless of sex or marriage or any that relationship stuff. That's also going to equate for other things in her life.
Absolutely. And you've never, I don't think you've ever heard of my tripod of relationships. I don't think I ever told you. I came up
Like
with
a
this.
menage a trois.
Not like that. It's a kind of a rule that I came up with. Kind of a, not a rule, a guideline that I came up with after a string of failed relationships, and because I've never slept around. I've never been that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I came up with tripod, whereas, and it's funny, but it works. In
Like in a Vern Troyer sense.
no, just you need sex, love, and trust
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship. And now there's a lot of things that categorize, um, underneath those, but ultimately, like you can love somebody, you can trust somebody, but you can hate having sex with that person. That relationship's not gonna last.
Right.
You can love having sex with a person, you can love that person, but you
Hate
can't
them.
trust them.
Yeah.
That relationship's not gonna last. You can love having sex with them, you can trust the hell out of them, but you just don't have the spark there. That relationship's not gonna last, or that relationship will last, but you're gonna be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you need all three. There we go. Now we lost you for a second.
Huh. Weird.
It's not about it's not entirely based on what your partner feels. It's based on essentially what you feel. I mean, if you're 300 pounds and you loving life, you're happy and you're content, then do it. Be
So-
happy. And if your partner doesn't like that, but you like that, then
I feel like
your
you're kind
partner-
of making an argument for that latest Cosmo cover.
I am. And because not every man is going to like that type of female physique. Not every man is. But not every man's going to like the female physique that's on every other Cosmo cover either.
Right. Yeah.
And let's be real. I mean, women have the greatest gift in humanity. They can give life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure, they need a man to do it, but I mean, ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sure, they need a man to do it, but I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, the woman is the one that cradles the baby. I mean, and yeah, you can talk to just about every mother out there. Their bodies are destroyed after that. Now, every man was superficial in the fact of, oh, you just had a baby, so you gained a couple extra pounds, so I'm done with you now. I'm gonna
There's
move
a
on to the
lot
next
like
one.
that.
There's a lot like that. Now, some of that is the man's fault. Others are society's fault in thinking that men need to be with a 10.
And our current president's one of them.
And that's one thing that I have a problem with. And like I said, I mean, I like Trump in certain aspects. I hate Trump in others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you can't just lay a blanket argument out. I mean, there are certain things Obama did that were great. There's a lot more that he did that were horrible. In my opinion, I'm not sitting here and I'm not going to say that I like any individual, simply based because of a letter that's behind their name. I'm going to like them on their decisions that they've made.
Mm-hmm.
As far as leadership qualities are concerned. So that's my standings on the whole feminist movement. Is you give women, and this goes down to biology. You give women the free range to sleep with anybody. Look, one key, and this will go back. I've heard this. I don't remember who I heard it from, but I heard this from somewhere.
I've heard it in quite a few places. Yeah.
But one key that can open many locks is a good key. But a lock that can be opened by many keys isn't a very good lock. And women hold the lock, men hold the key. And that goes back to biology, back to the Stone Age, whereas you have one man that can sleep with many women. He's a player, he's great, he's good, whatever, blah 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 blah. But if every woman required 3 dates before she slept with a guy, there'd be a whole lot more douchebags.
Wait, what? More douchebags?
There'd be a whole lot less douchebags.
I thought you just said more douchebags.
Did I say more?
I think
We'll
so.
cut that out of the video.
Because
I've had a few. So leave me alone.
What I'm about to say kind of goes back to a podcast I used to listen to, which is no longer in existence, but has to do with caveman gangbangs. So
Which I can see it.
there were some studies done and about primitive culture and what they kind of see in certain primitive cultures that still exist.
Did your mom come here?
Yes,
Where's the stuff?
right here. The stuff.
Where's the stuff?
The stuff. Okay, so what they were discussing in this podcast was primitive cultures were primarily polyamorous in a way. Like, if people talk about like serial monogamy, which is really bullshit when it comes down to it, it's like you're either with one person or you're not. And
Yeah, serial monogamy. Okay, so you date multiple people over a lengthy period of time, but what's lengthy? 6 months, 6 years,
right,
6 weeks.
those are so for 6 months. That's only with them. Well, now you're like 3 relationships. Like, how is that monogamy?
That's not monogamy. That's just you like to date somebody for 6 months and then
Right.
break up with them.
Right. So there's very, very, very few people that can say that they're monogamous in a way. And what we know about tribal culture is that, on average, couples, and this isn't everyone, but couples tend to stay together 3 to 4 years. Basically, they start seeing each other, they pop out a kid. By the time the kid is really self-sufficient within the tribe, because everyone's responsible for the kid in the tribe, the couple's kind of like, yeah, bored, and they move on to other partners. Therefore, the female has children with multiple males within the tribe. Things kind of rotate in a way, but it's relatively peaceful. Everybody's constantly banging somebody else within the tribe. And this was the weird but fascinating part of this study was they also found that the male penis is designed basically so that
Who's they? Who's they though?
biologist, so that the head of the penis is pretty much like a suction cup, right? So during intercourse, it can actually like pull out what material could be in there, and therefore plant his own material within the same place, giving him the last person the majority of odds to procreate with said female, which I thought was like, of course my head exploded, which meant that like in one night there might be several interactions with several different people, and like the last guy is going to have the best odds of procreating.
And that's from a purely biological standpoint, and
Right.
it makes sense from like I said, from a purely biological
But
standpoint.
if you look at it like evolution, which means that the guys that are built a certain way are going to have the increased chance of procreating, which means that all the guys that are shaped like a needle, gone, right? Unless,
But doesn't that come down to the woman's choice though? Especially in today's day and
It
age,
does.
in a quote unquote civilized society, wouldn't it come down? Because now, I mean, we don't.
but this was also
nowadays we don't bash our women over the head with a mallet and take them back to our hut.
I don't think they did that back then either. I think
Well, they
that's-
probably didn't, but I'm just saying, like nowadays, it's the woman's choice. If the woman woman chooses to be with a particular man, no matter what aspect he is, whether he's the perfect physiologically, the perfect psychologically, the perfect financially, it doesn't matter. If the woman chooses to be with that man and she doesn't sleep with any other man, and the man doesn't sleep with any other woman, then that man has just as good a chance to procreate with that woman as somebody else, as long as there's not a biological, barrier.
Right.
You still have those relationships where either the man can't produce or the woman can't produce, whatever. But that's a very small scale in the grand scheme of things. Just about everybody can produce, can reproduce.
Can't, but statistically, most men don't reproduce, whereas most women do.
And that's what that, again, you're going back to biology, whereas like there's a reason why ever since the Stone Age, anytime there was a war, all the men went and all the women stayed back.
Because a few men can
a few men can come back and,
Yeah.
and carry on the species, whereas a few women, it's a little bit harder.
right.
One man with a dozen females can reproduce a tribe in the matter of just a couple of years.
Yeah.
Whereas, one female, it would take
Good luck.
years if it would ever happen.
Right.
So that's where you run into the purely biological standpoint. But nowadays, in 2018,
Where there's still statistically more women on the planet than men.
yes. But in today, in how we look at things today, in Middle America, it doesn't really matter biologically. It
Does it?
matters psychologically.
Well, okay.
It's a psychological problem, not a physiological problem.
And that-
Because if in Middle America, the only way, if say biology ruled this, you were only able to reproduce if the female was 120 pounds and the male was 200 pounds built, and the female cooked and cleaned all day, and
oh God.
then Middle America wouldn't exist anymore.
Mhm.
However, in today's day and age, it's yes. Does
More
biology
economical,
does
or
biology still play a factor? Absolutely, but you have to weigh the options that you're in. If you're not that great looking, you need to admit to yourself that you're not that great looking.
like Harvey Weinstein.
That's a whole. That's
Because
a whole other thing.
seriously, he had a shit ton of money, he had power. He could
He
have
also raped a shitload of women.
yeah, and he also could have gone to the gym
He
an
could have.
hour a day,
He could have.
made himself more attractive,
He could have.
learned how to have a better.
He went the cheap route and decided to just force himself on these women.
Yeah.
And he got. Actually, no, he didn't get everything he deserved. He deserved much worse.
He still hasn't. I mean, he's going to trial. He's being prosecuted.
Well, until the
But-
day that he is thrown in jail and the door is locked forever.
But I also
For
will
him.
say that Asia Argento did him a whole lot of favors in the end.
Absolutely, but again, that's a whole other argument that boils down to economics. What did she get out of it?
Not a whole lot, and I think that's why she outed him. She ended up in what? A
But
triple X.
what was the
The Triple X movie,
yeah,
and that
but
was
what was the original agreement? Nobody knows.
Nobody
Nobody
knows.
knows but two people. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, if I promised a woman, hey, I'm gonna rape all these women, just keep it quiet, and I'll give you roles in all these movies and make you millions of dollars, and then I failed on my end of the bargain and she outed me. Well, that's my own fault, and that's exactly what he did. You know, and he may not have raped all those women, but he essentially assaulted multiple and raped a couple for sure. So yes, in his particular in his one instance, this one instance, I think if you rape one woman, you should be castrated with gardening shears. China has a great policy for that. They will chemically castrate you after what, the second attempt?
I don't know.
I think it's the second or the third
Don't
attempt.
know anything about China's policy.
Well,
but
they're doing it right. That's all I gotta say. And because rape is it's a very serious thing. You know, I mean, you ruin a woman if you do it, and you ruin a man if you claim that he did it when he actually didn't. You know, so you have 2 to 6. I think it's 2 to 6% of the rape allegations are false, which is very low.
and that's just what's reported.
And that's just
like-
what's reported.
like- Going back to Kavanaugh,
Yes.
like I really
Which
personally
we're gonna have to splice this all together because you just said
It
going
won't.
back to Kavanaugh.
it won't. It's already part 2. So
Okay, well,
if
read part 1 or
read-
watch part
okay,
1.
so going back to that, I fully understand. Like, people are coming out and saying, like, why is she talking about this? What, 35 years later? Like, why is this coming out now? And I totally get it, because I didn't have the full perspective on things until recently. I didn't know much about Kavanaugh's personal life, but his family, and this comes from him. Like, his mom was a lawyer, his dad, I think, was also in law in some.
What does
way.
that matter?
It does matter, because they're wealthy, they know the legal system. And I went to Catholic schools, which is
But that's
Where-
more of a morality thing, in my personal opinion.
no. I'm not saying Catholic schools is a morality thing. I'm saying Catholic schools as in the people who can afford it are well-to-do, wealthy. I went to school with people who their parents were lawyers, their parents were accountants, their parents were politicians, judges in some cases. I was the poor guy in the school, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you had these kids who, and the way that the tuition went was the more you made, the more you paid. So you had these kids who $10,000 a year are paying to go to this school, right?
Mhm.
They're funding this school, which also gives these kids the license to basically do almost whatever the fuck they wanted. And
But that's school's policy. That's not
that's society's policy, and that was the case that Ford was in, where she didn't have the same opportunities and everything as Kavanaugh, and Kavanaugh's parents were well-to-do. So for her, back in 1982, back when you had a different society, back when Porky's, Revenge of the Nerds, Animal House, all these movies that would make jokes about drunken rape. Well, if she didn't get banged, she shouldn't have gotten drunk and passed out. Where that was society's standpoint on the issue. So she comes out in high school and says, Kavanaugh and his friends raped me in school. What would have happened to her? Basically, she would have gone to court. They would have argued, well, she was drunk just like they were. She was asking for it. Society back then would have backed Kavanaugh, and it would have destroyed her life.
now.
So she keeps her mouth shut. But she goes to to counseling. She has to discuss it with her and her husband at some point. She goes through all these different things to kind of deal with what had happened, where she shouldn't have to deal with it. She should be able to go and say, like, this happened to me. Can somebody please do something about it? And now that he's running for Supreme Court, she can't ignore the fact that this guy who did something to me is going to be in a position of power to say that it's okay for this to happen to everybody else.
Okay.
So now she finally speaks up. And the way that she speaks up, and here's where I'm kind of a little pissed with the Democrats about it, but I understand that she had to come out and speak about it. She sends a letter to Dianne Feinstein and says, "This is my experience with Kavanaugh. Please keep me anonymous. I don't want to be out in the limelight. I just want you to know what kind of person this is. Don't vote for him." And then somehow it's leaked that, and
That she was raped by.
that it was her, and they want to talk to her, and she has to get a lawyer and all this other shit, stuff that she would have had to have done back in '82. But the difference is the way society is now is different from how it was in '82. No, he's not going to be prosecuted for it.
No, but it's going to ruin his career. No,
Should it?
absolutely. If it comes out that he really did do the things that she said that he did to her, then absolutely it should ruin him politically, financially, family wise. It should ruin him. Because rape is about the lowest thing that you could do, in my personal opinion. You know, it's one of the lowest things that you could ever possibly come up with. However, because he is a Supreme Court nominee, Feinstein has been sitting on this information for months.
No, she hasn't.
Yeah, she sat on that information for like 2 or 3 months before she made it public.
It hasn't even been 2 or 3 months since he's been nominated.
I'm
No,
what am I thinking about then?
she sat on it.
Well,
but
okay. So either way, because he is a Supreme Court nominee and he's in the limelight now, before I crucify a man, I want proof.
yeah,
And if it comes back that his accuser, Ford, is telling the truth and he actually did those things, then it should cripple him. And he should be the lowest individual in society. Absolutely, 100%. I hope he rots. But this movement of and now I will say this Me Too #MeToo movement of believe all women regardless of evidence. What's going to happen in 20 years if a woman sleeps with a man on a college campus? Because this isn't about Kavanaugh. I don't care about him in particular.
oh, I do.
It's the aspect of every other man that's out there. If I ever have an association with a female, ever, professionally, personally, whatever, and then all of a sudden she claims that I raped her one day when I clearly didn't, and I have to stand up for my name, there will always be that being held over my head for the rest of my life from everybody else that I meet professionally and personally of, did he actually do it or not? Did he just get lucky and get off? Or did he actually do this? Or, or did he not do it? So that's where I have such a problem with these rape allegations, because there are false claims out there. There are false claims out there that maybe aren't. We were all stupid to our own sense when we were in high school. In the fact of maybe we misread a sign from a woman and we went in to kiss her. Okay,
Is that sexual assault?
that it can be. Yes, I believe it can be. So we misread the signs. We go in. We're 16 years old. We go in, kiss her. That's not the signs that she's coming up with. She gets freaked out. She runs away. Whatever. I feel like an asshole because I just did something that, in my mind, is wrong. Now, say 30 years later, I'm running for political office of some point, and she comes out and she says that I sexually assaulted her. You can't tell me that you've never misread the signs when you were in high school. We were all young and dumb.
Oh yeah.
No, and I'm not trying to justify rape. I'm not trying to justify
But this
legitimate
wasn't-
sexual assault.
But again, this wasn't misreading the signs. It was he was trying to move her clothes. She finally screamed out, "Help!" He covered her mouth, and she was afraid that he was actually going to accidentally smother her to death with how he was trying to keep her silent.
And in that case, if she is telling the truth, then yes, you obviously know you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm not denying that. I'm not trying to justify that in any way, shape, or form. I'm simply saying that if we're going to agree, and this goes well beyond Kavanaugh. This goes with every sexual assault, sexual claim, debauchery, whatever. If because one day you might have run into this problem. I might have a son that runs into this problem. I might have a problem.
Mhm.
Every male, if we believe every woman without a doubt, we don't need a shred of evidence. We're just going to believe her. Then that's where I run into the problem. That's
Right.
where I run. If you're going to claim rape, or you're
Well, you
better,
skip
or
due
you're going,
process, and
or you're going to claim sexual assault on a man, you better be without a doubt be able to prove it, or at least know in your heart what you're doing, and that mainly comes down to a personal revelation, to a personal understanding that as soon as you claim rape, you're going to ruin that man's life. So if he did actually do it, fucking claim it. Freaking throw his ass behind bars. But if you're going to do it just for a payday or just to get yourself in the 15 minutes of the limelight or whatever, then you need to be faced with the same consequences as that man would be if you were to actually have done it. Because there are stipulations. There was a guy I read. He was a prominent athlete at a college, and he went to a college party. He slept with a woman. She woke up the next day consensually.
Mhm.
It was all consensual. She woke up the next
supposedly.
day and did. But see, that's my point. 5 years after him spending time in prison, after he had lost his college scholarship, he'll never get into the NFL. His life is ruined, or his dreams are ruined.
Right.
She finally came out and said, "Yeah, that was all just a lie. I just didn't want to admit that I slept with
She
him."
should go to prison.
She
just
should-
like he did.
Exactly my point. And that 2 to 6% of the false rape allegations are the reason why I question every rape. Because if I were to ever be accused of rape and I
Well-
didn't do it, my name is going to be tied to that case for the rest of my life.
So here's my other beef with a lot of this stuff. So ever since Ford came out, she's had to move twice,
Mm-hmm.
and this is only in a matter of a couple weeks, right?
Well, that's because you have a lot of people in this country that are followers. You have a lot of Republicans that are like, "Oh, she's this dumb bitch that's lying," which I don't believe. I don't believe that she's lying.
Well,
I don't believe that she's.
so
I believe she's telling the truth.
but the point is, she's had to move twice. She's had death threats.
Mm-hmm.
She's had
And that's the problem with society with rape victims, because everybody sees that the true rape victims that are out there, see that and they're like, well, I don't want to come clean with that because now I'm dirty goods. Now I don't want these death threats or whatever. No, women out there, that uh, uh, if you have one of these serious allegations, you know it and you know who did it, come clean, do it, and lock that son of a bitch away for the rest of his life. Seriously, because that's what gets me, and that's what pisses me off, is the fact that you have these women that will claim rape because they slept with a guy at a college party when they might have had one too many drinks and they made a bad judgment call, and they wake up the next day and they're like, I didn't want to sleep with him. Well, instead of me getting the name of whore or slut, I'm going to get the name of rape victim. And then you're going to name rape, which 7 hours beforehand you were flirting with him and you took him to your bedroom. No, that's wrong. If you didn't want to sleep with him, if you didn't want to have any sort of intercourse with this man, then you shouldn't have led him on in a particular way. And I'm not saying that Ford did it. I'm not saying that Kavanaugh is innocent. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying in the broad spectrum of everything. If you're going to sleep with somebody and you want to sleep with somebody in the moment and then you wake up the next day and you regret it, you had a bad sexual experience. He didn't rape you.
Oh, like Aziz Ansari.
The comedian?
Yeah.
Well,
He was accused. And what
comedian by
it came down to, and
circumstances.
oh come on, he's pretty funny.
I don't like him.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't
Okay,
think he's funny.
your personal taste, but
Yeah, my personal taste, I'm not
Yeah.
particularly a fan.
So he was accused, and this woman came out anonymously and said, "This was my experience." And the thing is, it wasn't he was her boss or anything like that. He met her at like some type of social function. She was basically, it sounded like she was excited to go out on a date with a celebrity, right?
Okay.
So, end of the night, they end up having sex. The next day, they were texting back and forth, and she expressed some regret in what had happened, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were having fun and you were like into it." And she kind of wrote back like, "Nope, not at all." And he was like, "Oh, I didn't mean for that to happen to you. Like, how can I make it up to you? I'm so sorry." Blah blah blah. He kept all the texts. That was the other smart thing with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but those texts came out after he was accused, because this basically this email was sent, I forget to who, but it was published, and they didn't say who it was. And this trying to accuse Aziz Ansari of rape, and then his response was, "Here's the text messages between me and her," and he blurred her names out. So, like, kept her anonymous. Like, good on him. And it pretty much like dropped after that. Like, there were some hardcore people that were like, "Oh no, he's a piece of shit."
See, and
But
that's
most people were like, "No, this woman is like ruining the Me Too movement."
because she is.
Mm-hmm.
Because look, nobody is a mind reader. Nobody can deter. If you're gonna keep going, if you're gonna keep going, like I'm a very firm believer in even men can rape their wives. You know, like that's a very true thing. If she doesn't want it that night, then guess what?
Like John Bobbitt.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so if a woman doesn't want your advances, and she says no, or she she comes out with, you know, a very explicit, like, I'm not in the mood, I don't want to, whatever, then no. If you keep going, that's rape. If you don't ever say no, or you don't ever exercise your right in determining what is, what you want, what you don't want. If you just let him keep going, he's not gonna know.
Mm-hmm.
You need to tell him no.
That's kind
And
of
I
what
think
happened
that's
with
where a
him.
lot of the problems with the women today is, well, men are stronger, men, he's just gonna hurt me. Well,
Well,
if he is going to hurt you, he's going to hurt you either way. Like he's either going to rape you when you don't. He's either going to have intercourse with you whether you want it to or not, or he's going to hurt you physically.
well, from my understanding, and don't quote me on this, but with those two, it was like he went down on her, she went down on him, he went down on her again, and the whole time, her argument was, well, he didn't understand my nonverbal cues.
There's no such thing as nonverbal cues.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, that's wrong. That's no. If you didn't want to have
It's like, what was
intercourse
your
with him,
nonverbal cue? Like giving bad head?
yeah. If you do not want to have intercourse with this particular individual, you need to say no. That's it. No. If he continues, then leave. If you can't leave, then yell, scream, holler, shout. That is a worthless piece of trash. And that's where I think the laws need to change. Because we actually, was it last year that the freaking guy that gang raped that woman in on a college campus and got 3 months in prison for it? I don't know if it was last year or the year before. This woman came out saying that she was raped by this prominent kid. I don't remember his name. But he got 3 months in prison because he was a prominent white guy that his dad stood up for him and said, "Oh,
He's a good kid.
he's a good kid. He wouldn't he wouldn't do this." But no,
I don't remember this.
I don't remember his. I wish I could tell you his name because I don't remember it off the top of my head. But that is where the laws need to change. And I think you need to make them freaking steep. If you're gonna rape a woman, fucking castrate his ass and throw him in jail for the rest of his life. Like, that is by far the worst possible offense that you could ever have. But the false allegations too. Like, that's what gets me. Now, the Aziz Ansari thing. Regret sex is not rape. Like, if you wake up the next day and you're like, "Oh my God, I actually did have sex with you last night. I thought I was just dreaming. This is horrible." Guess what? You just made a bad decision. Move on with your life. Don't claim rape. He didn't rape you. Now, if you say no, you try to leave and he holds you back and he does these things, whatever, blah, 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 then, I mean, either way, he's going to hurt you. So, and he's a horrible human being for that.
Well,
But see, and that's where I'll circle all the way back around to my original argument that I had, about an hour ago, about make it a 3-day minimum. Have standards.
3 day or 3 dates?
3 dates.
Dates. Okay.
Make it, if you are a woman and you have, you have self-respect for yourself, and you're not a sleazeball that's just going to go around and sleep with the first person that's willing to, and you have 3 dates with this individual, you can get a pretty, not in all cases, but in some cases, you can get a pretty good read on how he's going to react.
Well,
if you have
okay.
if you have 3 dates in public and you understand where he's coming from and all of that, and I'm not saying this is how it is all the time. There are definitely going to be anecdotal evidence of this, but if you go out with this person and you just get a bad vibe from them and you just don't want to anymore, you just cut it off right there.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's no reason for anyone to sleep with somebody 2 hours after you meet them and then realize the next day that you don't, I regret that. I shouldn't have done that. And then you just you claim rape. No, he might just be an asshole, but being an asshole doesn't shouldn't equivocate to you ruining his life. That's where I have the problem with the Me Too movement.
Well, I've got.
Because it takes away from the true victims of these crimes.
I have a different question.
What's that?
So,
You're a cutie.
so I've been with women who, very small number of women, all of which I can count on one hand, but I've been with a few who, and it goes back to like Louis C.K., right? He had this one skit where he's talking about how he met this woman, blah, blah, blah. They go back to his place. And he's like trying to get with her, but every time he like puts his hands in a certain place, she'll like push him away. And he's just kind of like, okay, she doesn't like that. Eventually she leaves, and the next morning he sees her, and it's kind of weird. And she's like, it's like, hey, last night. She's like, yeah, why didn't you go for it? And he was like, because you kept saying no. And she's like, I just wanted you to like, just go for it. And he's like, what? And she's like, I just wanted you to like force it on me. And he was like, how the fuck was I supposed to know? So
Well, that is miscommunication.
I have been in those.
Good on Louis C.K.
Well,
Granted, what was
but-
it? Probably a year later,
in
he
her
decided to jerk
perspective-
off in front of a bunch of women.
But in her perspective, she doesn't want to have to tell him. She just wants him to do it. And if she tells him, it's not fulfilling the fantasy.
But see, and there's the problem with society.
And-
Because that
and
is a thing. That is a thing that you need to ask a significant other. Somebody that you know.
But like I just said, if she says this is what she wants, it's not fulfilling the fantasy because she just wants him to do it. And I've been in the situation where so and so wants me to do something, and eventually they get frustrated to the point where they're like, this is what I want. I'm just like, wait, what? And then they're like, oh, you just ruined it. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Then you have a very odd sense of sexual arousal.
So what happens with
There's-
guys? So my question is, what happens with guys who are with women like that, who think they're getting the vibe? Oh, I've been with a chick like this before. They go for it, and then the woman they're with is like, that is absolutely not what I wanted. I'm so sorry. Blah blah blah.
That's both parties' fault because it boils down to communication. Look, if you have a rape fantasy, people do, and then there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has fantasies that other people or kinky things that other people might find taboo, and there's nothing wrong with having those. However, you need to communicate those because not everybody does. Now, if you have that fantasy, fine, so be it. Then tell your man, and then it's up to him to help you with that. But if I were to meet somebody at a bar, if we were to go to the bar tonight, I was single. We went to the bar, and I met a woman, and took her back to my place, and something happened, and then she woke up the next day, and it was oh, well, I didn't want that. Well, last night you did.
Are you sure?
But if she never said no, how am I supposed to know? I can't read your mind.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a rape fantasy, then you need to communicate that. If you want to have sex with me, you need to communicate that. If you don't want to have sex with me, don't come back to my house.
That's something that's come up. Like even Whoopi Goldberg said the same thing.
I have to use the restroom. I will be right back.
The point is, don't have sex, kids. During this pee break, I'm smoking Salt Liff pumpkin spice, which is there's not much left. It's a nice seasonal blend for this time of year. I'm smoking it in this Meerschaum pipe, which is changing color, but not in the way that I would like it to. But from what I've seen online, this is how they tend to change. Stem, and then it goes to the bowl eventually. I don't particularly care for the stem being darker than the rest of it, but hey, what are you going to do? Yeah, so speaking of these situations, yeah. Chuck Palahniuk, the novel Choke. If you haven't read it, I would highly suggest it. He covers that topic in a very awkward but accurate way. The main character in the book, whose name I forget, meets a woman in a grocery store who hands him a flyer. I'm not joking. Basically saying, this is what I'm looking for, and if you're game, do these things. And it ends up being a horrible situation for the guy involved. But it's very humorous because it's Chuck Palahniuk. And if you're trying to cheat, don't watch the movie. The movie is absolutely horrible, even though it has some great actors in it. The way it was directed, produced, with the subject content in mind, it doesn't do the book justice. Just read the book. Sit down, take a couple hours, read the damn book. It's hilarious. A lot of sex. It has to do with a sex addict. Actually, there's a couple sex addicts in the book, but follows their adventures, things that they've been through, experiences, how it's ruined their lives, how it's making their lives better. Definitely made me want to stay away from quite a few things that were described in the book. Speaking of Chuck Palahniuk, he was recently on Joe Rogan. Very entertaining podcast episode. Learned quite a bit about the guy. Big fan of his books. Huge fan of Fight Club. Not a fan of the book. Book was, in my opinion, horrible when compared to the movie. Unfortunately.
Who's this?
Chuck Palahniuk and Fight Club. Because I was talking about the book Choke, which has to do with sex addicts, and there's one scene in particular that had a woman who wanted a rape fantasy. So she would meet men at the grocery store and hand them a flyer stating, this is what I want, here's the rules. If you're game, show up at this time.
There's so many things that are wrong with that. I don't even know where to even start.
But here's the thing with Palahniuk, and here's what I enjoy more about his books now is that this is a guy who he likes to write in public. So he'll sit in a cafe, in a bar, all kinds of random places, and he'll listen to people talk. He'll hear stories. They end up in a book. Different names, slightly different situations. So keep in mind, out there was some dude who was propositioned by a woman at a supermarket and was like, hey, wear a ski mask, crawl through my window, and by the way, don't jizz on my sheets.
That's a whole realm of weird. I don't even want to. Sorry to the woman if she ever does see this, or women out there, because I'm sure there's more than one. But that's find one guy that's willing to do that, and then just stick with that one guy. But I will say, there, my friend, I have squirrel stew, and I'm getting kind of hungry.
You are? All
I
right.
am. So, I don't know about you, but I think about wrapping this up.
We're at almost 4 hours.
We are.
And we've had only one viewer for like 5 minutes on this second segment.
Anyways, for those of you that are interested, I cooked up some squirrel stew last night. If you want me to show you guys how to do it, check out my other YouTube channel. I'll have to get some more squirrel and I'll have to post it, but I will. If you're interested in that, I will most definitely do that for you guys.
Dude, just do it and post it.
I should just do it. and
Yeah,
post it.
yeah.
But anyways, if you guys do watch this and you're interested in how to cook some off the wall things, mainly squirrel. I mean, hell, I've eaten all of it, so I can cook some things for you. Leave a comment down here, right there somewhere. Probably a little bit lower. And I will start my YouTube channel and I don't know, come up with something.
Cooking with Ben.
Cooking with Ben. I like it. Anyways,
Cheers.
thank you very much for this, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If not,
Go fuck yourself.
let us know what we can. I'm not gonna be that rude. Let us know what we can talk about next time. If you guys enjoyed this, we're much obliged. Thank you very much.
I'm getting too fat for this.